Welcome to the Intuitive Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Rafferty, medical doctor, PhD, acupuncturist, and intuitive energetic healer. I'm here to bring you on a journey of holistic healing that explores the science of the physical body combined with mental and emotional well-being, energetic and spiritual health. And I am beyond excited to have Dr. Dilis Clare today coming to speak to us about all things medicine and herbalism. Dr. Dilis, it is such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Tony. Absolutely a joy to be speaking to you.
Well, Dilis, it's actually so amazing that we've found ourselves here recording this podcast together, because I didn't tell you this before we started recording, because I wanted to actually tell you that you were actually one of the sparks when I was going through a very challenging time in medicine that ignited this fire in me that I might be able to do something different, funnily enough. So I was working in pediatrics. I was in Mullingar many years ago, and I was literally, I can't even describe to you, I was a shell of my former self, working over 100 hours a week, sleeping probably only about 10 hours a week. Like, I felt like I was losing my mind. And I came out of this 28-hour shift one day, and I walked into this beautiful shop that was down in Mullingar, and they had a whole wall of Dr. Dilis Clare herbs. And I walked in. Now, I used to grow my own little medicinal garden out the back of my house at that stage. And I used to grow herbs, and I'd have like teas, and I was learning how to make tinctures and all these things at home by myself. I was fascinated with it. And I walked in, and it just struck me, this wall of all these beautiful, different medicinal products. And I was like, oh my God, are these produced by a doctor? And I remember Googling you at the time and being so amazed by the fact that you had trained in medicine, you pursued your career in GP, and then went and became a consultant in herbal medicine. And I was like, I just found it so inspiring. And that was right at the cusp of when I was deciding to leave mainstream medical practice and go out and do something different. And so to find myself having this conversation with you today while I sit in my practice where I do kind of this lovely combination of energetics and medicine, I have to say, you were one of the sparks that kind of illuminated the way. So thank you so much.
I'm delighted. Isn't it amazing how we go through life and we don't know what effect we're having on other people through random third party? It's amazing. But of course, I mean, I stand on the shoulders of people who inspired me. And I was lucky enough to have 3 of the top herbalists in the UK train me in herbal medicine in my practice for one afternoon a week in conjunction with a degree in herbal medicine. So I stand on the shoulders of people who have held Western herbal medicine, or what I call classical herbal medicine, open for the past 150 years. It really has been an inspiring journey for me. So I'm delighted if waves and ripples of that kind of emanate to other people.
Oh my God, no, it's such a pleasure. Because, I actually I looked very much into going back to study herbal medicine after seeing that was possible and how you've woven it together. And funnily enough, once I started doing energetics and going on this kind of path with acupuncture and all of these things, like, the practice has just gotten so busy, I couldn't even imagine how I'd squeeze in another degree at this stage. But it is always something that I have an affinity to. And like, we were having a little bit of a chat before actually we started recording, and I work with the most beautiful acupuncturists that do a lot of Chinese herbs, but there is something within me as someone that uses shamanic medicine, my connection to the land, that I just feel such an affinity to, like you say, the more Western style of herbal medicine. And I'm so curious, like, how did you find yourself going down this path? How did you find yourself moving towards it?
Frustration with a number of things that I wasn't able to help with. where people just came back after trying any medicine that I had from my drugs bag and coming back and going, right, I know you did your best, but it didn't actually work for me. Like chronic sinusitis is a very good example. A very small number of people respond to the inhalers or whatever, certainly not all of them. Irritable bowel syndrome, by the time you've done the Colpramin and the Colofac, the antispasmodics and the peppermint, like massively intensified peppermint oil, I have to say. And they're still having the problems. So, and then the third group of people were where the drugs from the drug bag was working, but I'd be very reluctant to prescribe them for myself or my family, where it's like, this is a big hammer for a very small nail, but that nail would be very irritating for patients and really affect their health, right? And then there was the ones where like really severe medicine was being used for something where it wasn't therapeutic. It came down to the fact that a lot of the drugs weren't therapeutic. They were symptom holding, right? But without actually resolving anything. And I thought, God, wouldn't you think now there's something better? And for a long time, I went through, will I be a homeopath? Will I do acupuncture? No more than yourself. You're one in the wilderness. And I was in my garden looking at all the dandelions and the weeds that I hadn't got around to and all the flowers that I'd planted and everything. And I suddenly thought, I think some of this stuff does something. Then I got busy with family, raising children and general practice and everything, so I had to drop it. And then by the time I came back to it, I thought, by that time I was getting chest infections regularly. I had very bad pneumonia as my first burnout. Medicine is very hard on doctors. I hate to hear people criticizing the medical profession because I know how hard people work. So after that, I was left with a legacy of getting bronchitis, and it was getting so that I was on steroid inhalers, and eventually I was on oral steroids. I was going, but I don't like this. No, we don't like this. So I started using the herbs on myself, and this is what I started using, right? This is my mucotone blend with lobelia for a spasmodic cough. So I'm back on my feet after 3 or 4 days when everybody else is being sick for 10, 12. And then the after effects of the antibiotic means that you're dragging yourself around for 6 weeks. So that's what it's done for me, right? I haven't had an antibiotic or a steroid of any description since then. But you have to go to bed, people.
Yeah. And actually take a rest.
Nobody should be walking around on antibiotics, right? If they're sick of antibiotics, they're sick enough to be in bed. Anyway, it was my GP trainer in the mid-80s that said to his patients all the time, you'll get better in a week with antibiotics and 7 days without them.
Wow. And you know what I find a lot in practice now? When people go on to an antibiotic, you can be guaranteed they'll be on another one within a couple of weeks. It's almost like this bang, bang, bang effect where these multiple courses of antibiotics are getting prescribed back to back in a short window of time.
And meanwhile, it's a major problem identified by WHO to be worked on. The more you cannot change the supertanker. Once something is out there, it is used to exhaustion until we misuse it to death. Antibiotics are the best blessing ever, and we shouldn't ever be on them without being in bed. With exceptions, there's always exceptions, isn't there? But anyway, then through indirectly, I found out about a degree course. You won't believe this. It was around the corner from my practice in North London.
Isn't that amazing? That's synchronicity, isn't it? A divine inspiration.
At a time, I had very practical herb fairies, loving them. Anyway, so long as I could find an accredited course, and this was in a university, all my fees were paid, a locum was paid, and 3 herbalists in addition to the degree course. So if I'm not a useful herbalist, there's no pity on me. Do you know what I mean? I had the opportunity to learn. So the herbal medicine, they were just calm. We'll leave it to the herbs. They know what they're doing. No ego involved. very thorough, extremely knowledgeable. When I did all the physio, I had to repeat all the physiology and pharmacology and everything that I did in medical school that I'd long forgotten, and have fell in love with them in a way that I never did in medical school. So I'm very much embedded in physiology, biochemistry, mainly in terms of how they support the traditional practice of our indigenous people. We always like to think that indigenous people are somewhere over there, right? We are so close to poverty. But we are also, I think we're coming out of the third generation of copying the big house. I think it's time for us to mature as a people and re-own our nettles and our dandelion and our cleavers, and because it's a medicine of abundance.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it so funny? It's become the weeds, and people are like, get rid of the weeds, spray the weed killer.
Oh, yes, but it's in keeping. And a lot of the book that I've written, which is The Uprooted Medicine, is to how we've become uprooted from nature.
Absolutely.
People have this. There's a cognitive dissonance between who we are and what we can alter and what are the consequences. It's a strategy of launch first and find out later. Okay, like steroids. Steroids were launched amid, they did fabulous things, suppressed all inflammation. 5 years later, we realized the stomach ulcers. 10 years later, we realized the bone density. 15 years later, and then everybody is trying to get everybody off them. So I think that's one of the points that we raise, is that this recurring medical oblivion to what went before. Okay, so it's at patients' expense. This book is about patient outcomes. We're looking at medicine, not how good it is for medicine or how good the medicine is. It's whether the outcome for the patient serves their purpose and serves their needs. Nobody asks about chronic sinusitis. There's very little research done into it, or all of those menstrual issues, which is very much your field of work. What we know about the menstrual cycle is, in comparison to lots of other subjects that don't recur on a monthly basis in 51% of the population. Using herbs for menstrual disorders, having teenagers on the pill, between the ages of 16 and 23, and then 25 to 35. It's insane.
Do you know, it's so interesting that you say that, because even a lot of obviously fertility is my main area from a medical perspective that I work with. But even having these gorgeous women come through to me, and just discussing the menstrual cycle. Some of these lovely ladies have been on a journey for many months, and some of them many years, but nobody's actually sat down with them clinically and been like, tell me about every single stage of your cycle, what's cycle awareness like, even mucus production, the different types of mucus. I just find it really, really interesting that we aren't educated about this in school, first of all, but also that actually what it highlights to me, and what I hear and what you're saying, is almost like it's a disconnection from the body almost. And obviously with the work that I do, is to bring people back into their body, connect them into the womb, and to be like, what's happening here? What is the cycle? What's the cycle like? And so many of the ladies that I see, and I definitely see a correlation with, I do a lot of reproductive immunology testing, but the bloods that come back with that stress and nutrition are literally the top two things that I see as drivers of inflammation and immune function. And that busyness of what society has created as the norm for us in a lot of ways, it pushes women into this deep state of nervous system activation and immune dysfunction, essentially, and a disconnection from the body. Would you agree?
Well, I'll see if I get this right. We currently have a model that is emerging as psychoneuroimmunohumoral medicine, right?
Yeah.
But in herbal medicine, it's called the terrain. And it's a lot easier to spell.
Yes.
But if you think of geology, how I see the herbs and drugs working on is the cell membrane primarily. I don't know whether you're aware of Bruce Lipton's work, which is
yes, I love his stuff through Stanford,
the whole
wasn't it? Yeah.
physiology is through the cell membrane, not the nucleus. Yeah, the body keeps living. The nucleus keeps functioning for 3 days after we die, something like that anyway. Whereas it's the cytoplasm not working, no, the cell membrane not working, that is the death of the cell, because it's about communication. And
Yes.
and the lymph drainage and the bile elimination and the bowel elimination and the sweating and the muscle tension, and all of that is continuous with the fascia. See, there's two things that the medical school model does not account for. It's lymph, including the brain. Imagine they've only realized that the brain has a lymph system within the last 10 years, as though the brain could function without a lymph system. That's evidence of it. But the notion that it could have managed without an eliminative system, it's kind of like everything goes in, washes around. Hey guys, where does it go? Right. So it's not following the money, it's following the fluid, the interstitial space, the collagen, the strength of the tissues, the resilience. A lot of what I do with herbs these days is bitters. Without dandelion root. I think the number of people who leave my clinic without dandelion root is very small, right? Because it supports the liver cells, functions, all the enzymes and detoxing, the production of bile and the elimination of bile. Loving the dandelion root. For this era,
Yeah, I do love it too.
We're in a system now which echoes before the Flexner Medicine report. I don't know whether you're aware of the Flexner Medicine report. It was you're going to love this book.
I know, I'm excited. Well, you sent it through to me for a couple of weeks ago, and I've started to move through it now, and I'm fascinated. Yeah. And, as someone, it's gas because, when you go into medical school, you're like I wasn't a spring chicken going back to medical school, in all honesty, but you are a spring chicken. You're a blank slate in some senses to what you're being taught. And, it's so fascinating because I went back and I did some additional training in obstetrics and gynecology.
Sure.
And when I was even doing that from the lens of how I look at things now, I was like, that, even the formal education, I was like, that's not physiologically, I don't think, accurate. That we do a test on this day or this day. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But the way I now understand the physiology of how I work and have a deeper understanding of some of these things, I never questioned some of those aspects in medical school. And it's so interesting because a lot of people ask me, what do your doctor friends think of you doing energy? Or, what do they think of certain herbs and supplements as part of your protocols or your plans? And even you and I were talking about this before, people coming to you and kind of asking about, well, why wasn't herbal medicine taught in medical school if actually a lot of the medicines that exist from a pharmaceutical point of view are based on the derivatives from plants?
Yes, the rational dissonance. When you look at herbal medicine, all medicine was herbal until about the 15th, 16th century. There was no herbal medicine because nobody would. It was kind of like you went.
Yeah, it was medicine.
Or the doctor, right? All three of them would prescribe medicine, which is made of herbs. Right? Yes. The differentiation only happened, and gradually, a very gradual disappearance over 500 years, absolutely intense over the last 100 and 150 years, in the industrialized technological societies. Okay? And the book is what traces this from prehistory all the way through to up to the current day. How it all and there's no distinction between what's in the doctor's bag and what's in the herbalist's bag, right? They're not distinguished by one being establishment medicine and the other being herbal medicine. They're distinguished according to what they do in the body. Now, the drugs are all designed to be toxic. They're all designed to get around all of those ways of eliminating things that are foreign, which is the liver, right? So we've designed these to get around the liver. And if we haven't, then you've got to have them injected or put on your skin or find another way around it. Whereas the herbs are part of the coevolution that we went through as the plants developed. And talk about resilience, plants can't move. So the plants are a reservoir of resilient, energetic, ready to go at a moment's notice, secondary constituents that are not nutritious, can be toxic, and we use some of those toxic elements to deal with difficult to shift terrain. All right, it's necessary to use something which will give not a nudge but a kick, right, to get it started. They are completely like this with each other, right? In herbal medicine degree, it was the same physical examination, the same case history, the same history of energetics, which had been forgotten on purpose, kind of, as we found out through researching the book. Sorry, I'm on the last legs of a chesty cough. So there's no reason for any of those to be disassociated from each other. So when people ask me, well, when do you work as a doctor and when do you work as a... I'm kind of like, herbs have no borders. Where establishment medicine went into chest specialization, respiratory specialization, gastroenterology specialization, neurology specialization, there's no border. You know, my ear, nose, and throat doesn't stop here.
This is a discussion I have every single day. When someone comes through and they're like, oh, I got referred to such and such and such and such. I was like, and did they address this glaring issue here? They're like, no, that wasn't part of the repertoire of what they did. And I'm like, you can't piece the body out like that. I was like, we are a complex synergy of systems.
I can guarantee anybody that if they have a problem with their upper digestion, that their gut microflora is definitely off kilter, right?
Yes.
Because there are things that we know because they've been observed over generations to the logarithm, right? Based on empirical science, the science of observation, repeated family by family, generation by generation, village by village. And that's, to me, that is effective post-marketing surveillance. When you invent a drug, it's tested here on laboratories, animals, whatever, then human volunteers, and then it's let loose, so long as it's 1% better than a placebo. And there are lots of ways of manipulating that. As long as it's 1% better than a placebo and it's possible to be repeated. Now, the gold standard is self-appointed. Who said the double-blind controlled trial was a gold standard for measuring the effectiveness of medicine? It measures whether, if you did that test again, you would get a similar result. That's not the same as being effective. Right? There's differences. So you have a self-appointed system of measuring something big enough to measure. So that's a big disturbance. You're looking for a big effect because it's big enough to physiologically measure on a chemical test or a blood pressure test or whatever. Meanwhile, and it's one constituent. So you're putting a lot of pressure through the liver at that time, right? Whereas the herbs have 300 constituents in each herb. A blend of herbs like this has about, 300 constituents by how many herbs? They all meld into a soup. So you actually end up with a soup of constituents, bioflavonoids, glycosides, bitter principles, sesquiterpene, lactones, I could go on, right? And then they go into the tissues and they go, oh, that's not quite right there. And, oh, I can do that thing there as well. And, oh, that's soothing on the gut. So the next thing that I eat is better absorbed. And this is limited. It doesn't go across what's called the blood-brain barrier, but it's actually the neurovascular barrier, right, which is much more energetic. It's all about energetic. So,
everything's energy, yeah.
And so the healing is in all different places using a soup of substances. Now, the fascinating thing, you see, I didn't believe any of this when I started. I was kind of like, they'd say that echinacea is good for, it's an alterative and an immune support and an antimicrobial. And I'm like, get out of here. Dream on. Meanwhile, I just loved the fact that it was called Echinacea angustifolia, and it was poetic, and it was lovely people, and I wanted to grow it in my garden, right?
It is a beautiful flower.
As well, where I thought, I can give people much safer things. I was very upset that I was actually harming people. That was the crucial bit, because that was the thing I vowed not to do. And I thought I can give people a blend of herbs so that they know I take them seriously, they know I'm being kind, and they have a way of minding themselves or their family. So that was the role I saw in my clinical practice. And I thought, sure, grand, I can do that within a 10-minute consultation. That was the bit that went wrong for me.
I can imagine.
No, they can be useful in that sense. That's why the over-the-counter range that I have throughout the country is there. If it's a self-limiting thing or recurring and you find the blend of herbs that manages it for you, either from the hedgerow or from those kinds of blended products. Not everybody needs to see a herbalist. It's only if something is getting very annoying, So they were the things. It was my patients. My patients, just the patients kept coming back and saying they felt better on the herbs. People I had known for years because I'd been their GP for years. And I had this opportunity and I offered it to them and they came back and they said, oh, I don't know why you're having that, but I feel better. I haven't felt this. And it was repeated, recurring. Not that it's a panacea. It would be the patient that crunched it for me, and I write about it in the book, was a very... I would almost say cranky, except cranky in a way I love, not a people pleaser. And she came and she wanted help for her. It was at the time, I think, that coproximol, it's probably before your time, Tony, was taken off the market. And she had been using it for arthritis. It was very put out that these were being taken off the market because of the toxicity. I said, well, do you want to try the herbal medicine? Very reluctantly, she said she would. So she came in and very proud, and very discerning person. And the one thing I asked her about opening cans and can she do the hoovering and what can she reach and those practical questions just to evaluate her, what it was the arthritis was stopping her doing. The pride she had to go down the stairs backwards in case the knees gave way. And that was a real hurt to her dignity. Anyway, roll on 3 or 4 months later, and she came in. She was still complaining, right? At which I expect her joints were a mess, right? I was never going to get her back to, not having any pain. So eventually I said, and how do you come down the stairs in the morning? And she said, what do you mean? How do I come down the stairs in the morning? And I said, well, do you come down front ways or back ways? And she suddenly looked at me and went, oh, that look on patients' face when they realize, oh, actually, I am quite a bit better, because she's and her other levels of functioning, and she wasn't in quite as much, but she didn't need as many painkillers. So it was those kinds of results. It wasn't that I, people picked up their crutches and charged up a mountain, but it was the quality of life for people with the IBS and the migraine and the menstrual problems, PCOS, all of those things. Lots and lots of issues, the chronic sinus, chronic digestive problems of all kinds, diverticulosis. I've had patients who have had several admissions for diverticulosis, inflaming into diverticulitis. It's a bowel inflammation, people. That's not autoimmune, and it's very, very common in the older 50s. And you can get flare-ups, which can be quite dangerous, sepsis. And they're on their marshmallow and their chamomile and fennel and whatever as teas, and they learn how to. They come and see me twice a year, but they haven't actually been to hospital since starting the herb. A number of people who have gallbladder, recurring gallbladder, that now it seems like the one episode of cholecystitis, which is gallbladder inflammation, and they're taking out people's gallbladders as though gallbladder does nothing. Now there is a role for gallbladders when they're shrunk and, like a little dried stone bag of nothing that's just an irritant. There is a role for it, but not after one episode of crankiness, by itself with fasting. So a lot of people who would have had gallbladder removals only went down this route, and they used the herbs for 12 or 18 months and then they would forget about them,
Yeah, isn't that incredible? Well, it's so funny that you talk about like whipping out these organs, because we are so quick to whip things out these days. Even I had a lovely lady in with me a wee while ago, and she was just having persistent vaginal bleeding, and they were like, we're just going to take out your womb. We're going to take out your womb. She had a Marina coil in. And I was like, absolutely not. I said, we're going to send you for an ultrasound and find out what's going on in there. And the coil had been embedded directly into the wall of the womb. And they're like, oh, we'll just take the womb out once they knew. That shouldn't be impacting anything. And I was like, there's a foreign body embedded in this muscle in the body. I was like, would we not sort that out first before we take out the whole organ? But it blew my mind at the time. I was like, oh God, are we at that point? And it's kind of, especially because I do a lot of energetic work with women that go on a journey with their womb. I work with the womb, and the amount of times I've been told, it's like, oh, would you not just take that out? You don't need it anymore. And I was like, yeah, I heard it twice in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I actually was just like, this is insane. This is insane. So, because they're not in the baby making years anymore, I just find it mind-boggling. I still get so shocked by some of the things that people tell me day in and day out.
Started with HRT.
Yes, yeah.
I should say HT, because once you're into the menopausal years, it's not a replacement for anything because it's not meant to be there.
That's so fascinating.
And the irony of this is, during the years when there was and I felt it was an overreaction to this can cause cancer when you've been using it for 5 years. And at the time I was going, why are they running for the hills? Right? Like 5 years is a long time. There's a role for everything, but it's this fear base that I find is very stressful for people.
Yes.
Right? And so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then any doctor is frightened then to prescribe it. It's like somebody just takes it off the menu, right?
Yeah.
Under all circumstances, in case you get sued, which is a very real possibility. I have, which I think we need training. I think doctors need training in not to obey that fear.
Yeah.
So long as you can justify your actions and document them very carefully. Anyway, all during those 10, 15 years, I saw so many people who, through the menopause, and some of whom, the people who were having moderate to severe problems when they came to see me, I would put them on HRT, right? Or HT, I suppose I should call it now. Because who wouldn't? They were unreasonable. Their lives were in pieces. It was like, of course, out of kindness, you would. But I would also do it in the knowledge that we would be addressing the stress levels, the digestive problems, the anger issues, the rage.
Yes, yeah.
They're the common things, and then the binge eating, right, which I'll put my hands up for, the binge eating and the living in an environmental age where, everything, all the fire retardants, all of the manufactured everything, not to mention what we then buy and put under our kitchen sink. So dealing with all of that, it would be, yes, of course you can use HRT for like 6 months, 12 months, rarely as long as 18 months. Now, it would be if they didn't have a raging family history or BRCA genes to say they were prone to breast cancer. So cautiously, I would, but I think I was the only doctor that I know. I mean, women were telling each other, go and see Dr. Clare, she'll prescribe HRT for you. But now I'm the one raging, kind of, and going, everybody does not need HRT just because your hairdresser thinks it's a good idea.
Yes, yeah.
It is not necessary for health. At the time, they were prescribing loads of HRT, which was when I was in medical school. They were claiming that it prevented heart disease, that it prevented bone loss, that it made you young and beautiful. It was a treatment for depression. And I was going, really? Even back then, I was going, really? I mean, I'm one of 11. I grew up, we never had any medicines in our house, ever.
Yeah.
If there was Angel's Junior aspirin for children, that'll make you smile.
That's what was there, yeah.
What was there? What's now forbidden for children?
Yeah.
But medicine goes through these cycles.
The cycles, yeah.
The 1907 to 1930, children's thymuses were being removed.
Isn't it wild?
They were determined to be enlarged based on quantitative studies of children who were underdeveloped. So all these normal thymus glands, but there's this recurring pattern in the kind of medicine that we were taught. That's not written into the history.
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't dig it up. This has been researched up the wazoo, right? I don't know what the wazoo is. Never mind.
I appreciate it though. I love a good wazoo. But it's so interesting that you're talking about it, because like what I'm seeing a lot at the moment is, or with some of the women coming into me, they're like, oh, I'm convinced I'm perimenopausal. And, when you sit down, you actually go through their bloods with a fine-tooth comb, and I look at every single aspect of who they are. I'm like, I don't know who has told you this, but there's so many systemic issues going on here that this is a system issue. Like, that I don't think is perimenopause. I was like, I think there's gut disturbance. It's just bonkers to me. But I suppose it's become a very hot topic on social media and all of these things. And
a lot of the self-help groups are actually funded through pharma. For a lot of these, it's been an avalanche. It's marketing.
Yeah.
It's getting women to market it to each other. It's very clever, but it's lobbying and funding.
It's so wild, because when people come in, like, obviously, I love that you're speaking into kind of this, like, the systemic link between the different organs, and someone sits down with me and we start looking at their hormone profiles. You're looking at their gut health, their liver function, their thyroid health, and you're putting all these pieces together about how all these organs are working together. And you start speaking into, like, what's happening in the whole body for you here. And I'm not surprised that your cycles have gone awry because of X, Y, Z, And even the amount of undiagnosed endometriosis that I see is mind-boggling, and polycystic ovaries. But also some of the women that have trialed estrogen in an undiagnosed endometriosis, that it's like putting all the fuel onto this fire, and it's driving. Like, some of the ladies come into me and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, are we sitting and actually talking to these people about their symptoms? But I don't think we have time within the system approach, I suppose. Like, what does your sessions look like? How do you structure it these days to be able to sit?
Yeah. For the first appointment, it's an hour's consultation. And
it's the only way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. Who are you? What's your life about? Who's at home? How's your dog?
Yeah.
It's and what exercise do you do? I walk the dog. But do you stand and throw a stick and the dog gets exercise? and leaning against the wall. Right? It's that level of detail. And it's the pause.
Yeah. Yeah. To
Where
let them
people
fill
go,
the space then,
oh,
yeah.
this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. And you're just kind of, really?
Mm.
And then it's that self-reflecting, I thought that was true. Is it not true? Do I have to think some other way? And you're kind of like, well, how's it working for you the way you're doing it?
Exactly. Well, that's a very good point, because actually, when you're sitting with someone and you're highlighting that there's severe insulin resistance there that nobody's picked up before, and you're like, well, if we need to move forward here, like there needs to be changes made to how you're living and how you're eating and what that looks like. And I think what medicine definitely gives is it's almost like a quick fix that people feel it's a magic bullet that, well, can you give me that tablet and then that won't be there as a problem anymore,
Yeah. But then you see, it's the complexity that intrigues me and keeps me interested. All right, because you say to somebody, and the one I loved was always, "Oh, the doctor told me to watch what I eat." And I'm kind of like, "Yeah, that doesn't work. I just watch it."
I put it in my mouth.
So the why we eat what we eat and how we eat it is such an emotionally complex area to do with all aspects of our culture, that to say to somebody, stop eating this or eat more, like I find it much better to get people to eat more sardines and say, no, but you won't like them if you don't put lemon juice on them. And if you really don't like looking at them, just blitz them in the food processor. So an awful lot of it is getting down to why don't you get a slow cooker? Because you have to get those vegetables in. So you either steam them, smoothie them,
your potato smoothie.
Or put them in the oven or the slow cooker or with the Instapot or whatever. But these are what you need. How are you going to do it? Like, draw me a picture. How is this going to change? Because if you keep telling them what not to do, the whole thing of managing the obesity era. It's an era. It's not an individual problem. It's an era. And the whole thing of giving people instructions is just not. They've had instructions all their life.
Yeah.
If you were to go to any other profession and they advise you to do something that's ineffective and possibly harmful to 98% of the people who try it, would you keep going back to trust them for other things?
It's fascinating, isn't it, when you think of it from that perspective?
It just doesn't work. It's about mentoring. It's about understanding. It's about self love and kindness, and then spreading that outwards. And fun. Great question. What makes you laugh? What fun do you have?
Yeah.
Families. Everybody brings a joke to the table.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is what the original word for doctor in Latin is docere, which is to teach.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
And the other thing that I find is completely ignored in medicine is the wounded healer.
Yes. Oh my God. If that wasn't one of the biggest archetypes I had to heal on my own journey.
Oh, yeah. And I'm still doing it.
I know, me too. Oh God, me too.
Yeah. So it's the energetic work, and it's the walking, and it's the yoga and the reflection. I say to people, reflection, meditation, or prayer, take your pick.
Yeah.
Right? Stroke the pet, unless it's a goldfish, because they don't like it.
Yes. Yeah.
You kind of know, there's the range of what you can do. What do you think you can do in the next month?
Yeah.
You pick something.
Easy to obtain goals that actually make change for someone in the right direction.
Self-identified.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I actually love that. It's so funny. I used to laugh about this with my mom all the time. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you found your way into medicine. She's like, you hate being told what to do.
Oh, but that's because we can tell other people what to do.
Yeah. Well, it's so gas because here I am now sitting in my own room.
The one from my mother is she'd send me off to do something, and 5 minutes later she'd be yelling up the stairs, "Did you get whatever?" And I'd have forgotten what I went up for. I'd be totally distracted in a world of my own. And I'd come downstairs and say, "What did you send me before?" You know, she look at me and she go, "For somebody who's supposed to be intelligent, you're awful stupid." And the staff at work would still say the same thing, you know. But I kind of think, well, at least it's not Alzheimer's. I've always been this way.
Exactly.
In another world. I've always been able to see outside boxes. I
Yeah.
remember sitting in a tree when I was about 7 or 8 and kind of knowing stuff.
Isn't that amazing? And do you know, I think we need more people that are like that in the world. And like we were talking about burnout before we actually came on, because I see a lot of doctors in practice. I do see a lot of doctors, and this kind of discussion around burnout that we were talking about, anxiety that people have. And, you know, I had a fascinating discussion this week with a friend of mine, because I was saying to her, I said, well, what does burnout look like versus actually have you completely lost passion for everything that you're doing? You're basically exerting all this energy in something you don't give two craps about. And actually the anxiety that you're feeling is in action for the stuff that you actually do want to chase, you know? And she was just, her mind was blown by that. And I met up with her a couple of days later, and she was like, oh my God, I wrote out a big list of all the stuff that I wasn't allowing myself to do. And I actually realized I was completely doing all this stuff that I'm not passionate about, but actually depriving myself of all the stuff I do want to do. But that actually completely, in the space of 24 hours, shifted her anxiety in just having that realization. It was fascinating. And so I suppose just as we're finishing up, where can people get this amazing book? So it's the Uprooted Medicine book.
This is the book, and it's Uprooted Medicine. The subtitle is A Revealing History of Medicine That Restores Herbs to Patient-Led Care. I've written it with Tim Morrissey, who is a PhD and is an amazing researcher. Oh my God. And it's available from Joined Up Medicine.
joinedupmedicine.com. So people that are listening today, I would absolutely encourage you to, you know, try herbal medicine. I always say this to people that I heard this beautiful quote one time, and they're like, you know, if people saw the herbalist, the acupuncturist, and the shaman, they'd never, that was the medicine. That was the medicine, you know? And so I love that. I do feel people like yourself, people like myself, we are bringing these things and these medicines back to the system, essentially, and like highlighting to people, because a lot of people that I see, they're like, I wouldn't have even thought to go and have acupuncture or see a herbalist before I went in to just get my prescription for my antibiotics. It's not even a thought in the first step of the procedure, you know.
Can you tell a little bit about the shamanistic aspect of your, because that's what I wanted to glean from you.
I trained in shamanic medicine, separate obviously to my path as a medical doctor. And when I opened my own practice, I did a lot of gut health work. So I was seeing people mainly for gut related issues that were coming through. So it was fascinating to hear you talk about all of the IBS and the bits and pieces this evening. But I was finding that actually, no matter what nutritional changes I made, whatever supplements, or I had a very crude knowledge of some of the herbs to support people's gut. So I was kind of recommending seeing like herbalists and kind of going on a bit of a journey to do things a bit more naturally. But then there was a couple of clients that initially came through to me that I was like, how would you feel if I popped you onto the plinth and did some energetic work with you? And when they got up on the plinth, so from an energetic perspective, I deal a lot with the meridian lines and how energy moves up and down through the body, the chakra system, the main energy centers that are through the body. And usually because each of the chakras is linked energetically to different organs and also to different emotional processes. When I start to feel into the energy and see where the disturbances are within the chakra system, I can kind of see actually, well, this distribution of energy is impacting XYZ organs. So, it's quite fascinating because on those clients that I did the energetic work on, they started having much better outcomes. And I was fascinated by that. So I was like, well, there's obviously something going on here in how we're processing energy and literally digesting emotion. The energy of emotion, with emotion being energy in motion. So I found it really, really interesting that actually the more people heard that I was doing that, it basically just started to grow legs. And people were coming to see me for this combination of the medical element of it, and especially because I'd obviously through our medical training, we have a very in-depth knowledge of the physiology and like the anatomy of the body. So when I put my hands on someone, I'm like, I'm feeling a lot of dense energy here. I can pinpoint exactly what organ or part of the body that's in. So it was giving me a really, really clear picture. And through a lot of the work that I've done, kind of researching traditional Chinese medicine as well, all the concepts and theories about kind of each of the organs holding different emotional energy, you can start to put this beautiful, full picture together for people, It was really interesting because I started doing a lot of research about Western herbs when I first started, and I'd really wanted to go down that route, but like I say, the practice actually got so busy I didn't get an opportunity to, because in the work that I do on an intuitive level, sometimes I get messages in the energy about what herb might be actually quite good for their energy. So that was really, really interesting, because then when I'd go off and research what herb was coming through, I'd be like, oh wow, that's fascinating. It's actually quite energetically linked to this organ and to what's done in standard herbal practices. So I found that the combination was really amazing. Now, it's interesting because I do use medicinal mushrooms as part of my immune-based protocols. They were developed by a doctor and a TCM specialist over in London, Trevor Wing. And it's quite fascinating, and I love using them. But there is something about the Chinese herbs that I'm not as drawn to as the Western aspect. I absolutely adore like the work that you're doing. And obviously we were speaking a little bit about this before. I think as a shaman, I'm very connected to the land, the cycles of the seasons, and kind of working with the land and the energetics of each of the seasons. And also obviously the plants and the herbs that grow at different times of the year and the medicine that they can offer. And, I've done quite a lot. I do a lot of work around a shamanic ceremony to connect with different, the spirit and the essence of different plants. And there's this beautiful herbalist who I did some of her she did some online sessions to connect with the spirit and the energy of different plants or herbs. Her name is Desiree. And I just loved actually spending 6 weeks with the oak tree or the hawthorn, and actually just sitting and like doing a shamanic journey with the spirit of the oak. It was so powerful. I just loved it,
Have you heard of Carol Guyot's work?
Oh my God. I only just recently bought her book about pregnancy and herbs.
Oh, yes, I have it behind me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
She's also done a lot of work of, I think it's like proving the energetics of herbs, and there's a word for it, I can't remember, but she has another book that you would love to do with shaman relationship with herbs, and she's in County Clare. So very close to home for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'll definitely look into the other book because I've started reading through that, and I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And that kind of nourishment that the herbs provide, it's just beautiful.
I know. I love the like you might use a herb for its mainly digestive effect and then find that, oh, isn't that lovely? It lowers the blood pressure.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
Oh, who thought of that? So that a lot of because the herbs have anti-inflammatories, antioxidants, and a lot of the chronic diseases are based on this meta-inflammation at cell level and interstitial cell level. And that's what we're talking about. But the language has it as well. I couldn't swallow bad news. It brought a lump in my throat.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I'm brokenhearted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been dumped.
Yeah.
It's a physiological entity.
It's wild, isn't it? Yeah.
Your mood is down, your everything is low, you're flattened, your digestion, your appetite is gone, you have a pain in your chest, you can't breathe, A
sinking feeling in your stomach. All of these things. I love listening to the clients actually speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Most wonderful disease.
Yeah.
Because it's a altered state of physiology.
Yes, yeah.
Now, luckily, in a good relationship, it keeps recurring. Little and ripples and, So
it's just fabulous. Oh, you've inspired me now. I need to go back and do my herbal training.
We all just need to work together.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? I'll be sending everybody down to Galway. You can send them all up to me.
Yeah.
Between me with the energy and you with the herbs, we'll have them all sorted.
I already sent some people up, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Dilis, it's been such a pleasure to connect with you. I just find it so inspiring what you're doing. And again, thank you so much for actually being a spark of inspiration for me when I actually started this journey to step out.
That's so lovely.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And it's been such a pleasure to connect with you today. And is there any way, just before we finish, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you? Do you do one-to-ones? What does that look like?
I don't know how I've stayed in practice for 25 years because I'm so bad at all of this. Phone the clinic or contact the clinic, support at drclare.net. But the phone number is on the website, which is Dr. Clare's Apothecary, drclareapothecary.com. It's all on the website. Just put in Dr. Clare Galway and it'll all the phone numbers and all the rest of it. We're all over Insta, and I don't do it. The staff do it just so that you know where we are. We're in all the shops up and down the country. And if we're not in your local health food store or where you think we should be, say, do you have Dr. Clare's herbs?
Yeah, you need to get them in.
So it's. I think is that every and
that's perfect.
And the book is a separate website because otherwise it would have got lost in the midst of all of that. And we do online. I work with a colleague, Larry Yonisdottir, who specialises in women's health, and along with being a general practitioner. And we prescribe teas and tinctures and powders. And there was something else I was going to say, and I'll remember the minute you do click the off.
That we hang up. I know.
Yeah, love to hear from you. Love to see you. Yeah, we're
brilliant.
Yeah,
amazing. Oh well, thank you so much, Dilis. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm sure the listeners have just absolutely loved everything you've explored. So thank you so much for your time.